I recently posted a video about the difficulties of capturing birds in flight, and sometimes we have that need to crop the images to make the birds stand out. But of course we have to retain the quality too. It's not unusual for our subjects to be a bit further away than we'd like. Now it requires a couple of skills to ensure success, and I'll link below to my earlier video. Here's another image from the same photographic session, but this one has a slightly different problem, one which many of us I think would encounter at some stage. It's not the first time that this has happened to me. The bird is so near the edge of the frame that in Adobe Camera Raw I can't do very much with it. If I were to select the crop tool in Adobe Camera Raw, one of the things we can't do is to crop outside of the picture boundaries. So if you look over on the right hand side, you can see the aspect ratio I've got locked. So as I drag in a corner toggle, I'm going to retain the 3:2 aspect ratio of my camera, and I'll move to get the bird in a more appropriate spot. But ideally what I'd like to do is to rotate the bird, but I can't do that to get a nice angle and good composition because I can only go so far and I start to lose my subject. Now the crop's been made, so I'm going to stay with that particular crop and I'll hit the enter key. And I've already done any work that I want to do on the bird, and I've made sure that I've got a good sharp shot with which to proceed. So what I'd like to do next is to open this up into Photoshop. Now this is quite a simple technique, but quite often the simplest techniques tend to work particularly well. What I'd like to do before I go any further is to sample the colour in the background sky. I'm going to sample the colour up on the right hand side, somewhere around the wing of the bird on the right here. So I'm going to select my eyedropper tool, and I can click into the area, and you'll notice down at the bottom left of the toolbox that shade of blue is now the foreground colour. But what I'll also do, I'll come down to the bottom where the blue is a bit paler, hold the Alt key and click again, and you'll notice I've got a slightly paler blue, and that's now taking the position of the background colour in my colour picker. So the next thing we need to do is to remove the sky. Now, in actual fact, one of the tools we may turn to here is Select Subject. So let's give it a try. There's Select Subject. You'll notice we've got a colour range and also a focus area and a sky. But let's select the subject. Because what I've found sometimes, and I found this with my previous video, if we look carefully up at the edge of the wings up here, you can see that we'd have to do a little work here before we made our cutout. So maybe let's come at this in a slightly different way. Let's hit Ctrl-0, we'll fit that back on screen. Remember to remove a selection, hit Ctrl-D. Let's try one of those other options. Let's try selecting the sky. I think this may be a better result. And there we can see, without looking too closely all around, that selection looks pretty good. Of course, I would suggest you zoom in and have a good look, but I'm going to live with that for the sake of this video. So all I really need to do now is to decide what I'm going to do with this selection line, and then I'm going to remove the background. What I may do to start with though is just zoom in, take a look at where the line is. It's right around the edge. What I'm going to do is to feather that very, very slightly. To do that, select one of your selection tools, go to Select and Mask. I want something small. There's the feather. It's already set at 0.5 pixels because that's obviously something I've used before. You can see the softness we've got. I'm going to click OK because I think that's all I need. Once again, Ctrl-0 to fit that on screen. What I can do here is go down and select my mask. When I select the mask, a strange thing happens, but don't worry about that. Let's just inverse the mask. Control I will do that. There we have our bird floating on a transparent background. Now we can choose a better position and we can rotate the bird. To do that, I'm going to pick up my free transform tool. You'll find that in the edit menu at the top left of the screen. Control T is a nice easy shortcut. Because all I want to do here really is to, well, let me drop down the size. That might help a little bit. Let's come down a little bit because I can go outside of the bounding box. I can put any sort of rotation I want. I can bring my bird down into a nice compositionally strong place, something like that. Just to give myself a bit of reassurance, I could pick up my crop tool and click. At least I'll see the rule of thirds. And I can now see which area my bird occupies. It could possibly do with coming down a little bit and to the left, but of course we're all going to choose something slightly different. I'll pick up the move tool for this, down and a little bit left. There you can see the sort of thing that I'm trying to do. Now I need to create a new blank layer down at the bottom of the layers, drag it below the bird. Now we've got that dark blue in the foreground of our colour picker. So with this new layer selected, if I hit Alt Backspace, there's our image. Because we've cut out the bird and we've sampled the actual blue sky the bird was against, then putting in a new sky is not really changing anything at all, and it fits perfectly. Now, one thing you may notice, again if I zoom in here, we do see, if I can find somewhere, we can see some evidence of pixels in the bird. But of course I've just added computer generated colour in the background, so sometimes that can be a little off-putting. I would suggest if you put 1% of Gaussian monochrome noise into there, that will be sufficient. But just before we do that, I'll hit Control 0 again, because we do have that lighter blue. And what we've got here is a lovely background to the bird, but maybe a little variation wouldn't go amiss. Now I can create that using a gradient, but I wouldn't do it over the top of this layer. Well, I would, but not on this layer. I'm going to use a new blank layer. And what I'm going to do here is just experiment with a little bit of light blue in areas, just to give the background a bit of interest. So let's switch these around and we'll bring that lighter tone to the fore just by hitting the little arrow. Then we need our gradient, and up the top here from this option we want, in the basics, we want this one, which is foreground to transparent. So now I could, and I'll drop the size of my bird down a little bit just to give myself a bit of space to maybe click and drag, just to give a little bit of tone. That's a little bit heavy, I would suggest. I'm going to do a little bit less of that. Maybe a little bit over here, maybe a little bit up the top, just a little. You get the idea. Once you've got something you're entirely happy with, then we can amalgamate these two layers. Take a bit of time to get this right, but select both, right click and choose merge. Now what I'll do this time is to zoom in again, because now we can add that noise into the background so it balances nicely. Filter, noise, add noise. Now 1% of Gaussian monochrome noise, if I untick the preview and we look around this area here, now you can just see a change there. Maybe you could squeeze 2% in. Remember, you're viewing a slightly compressed video, so I'm going to see evidence of noise a little bit stronger on my monitor than perhaps you will, but it's not going to be that much. Usually I select 1%, but I'll select 2 here just for demo purposes. So now we've got a nice natural sky with the bird positioned exactly where we want it. Now we can save this as a Photoshop file, live with it overnight, look at the image first thing tomorrow and see if we're still happy with it. But the beauty is, even if I come back tomorrow and decide that what I did around the edges with the lighter sky I'm not too keen on, doesn't really matter. I can just drop my original sky in the bin. I can create another new blank layer, drag it to the bottom of the stack. I've got the dark blue here in the background, so that's control backspace will flood the background colour. So there we are, straight back to where we was a little while ago. So then we could do a little more experimenting with a gradient with the lighter tone on a new layer if we wish. But just recently I've seen a picture like this where a new sky with clouds was put in place. But I could tell it was a sky that had been put into the shot instantly. Because if we were zooming in to a bird like this, even with a 200mm lens, it's very unlikely the sky behind it is going to be pin sharp. The clouds are going to have some softness. So if you see the clouds pin sharp, it's not conclusive, but it's a good bet that someone has put a new sky behind their bird. No problem with that, but if you're going to do it, at least soften the clouds just a little bit. Now as the image spins around on screen, you can see I've imported a new sky into the shot. Not the perfect sky for this, but I wanted something which has some clouds in the background because I don't think we would see the clouds as sharp as they are. But of course it's easy to remedy. Once we've opened the image, the sky image, and we've dragged it into the shot, the position of the bird of course isn't changing at all, but now we can select filter, blur, Gaussian blur or any other blur if you would rather use those, and we can put a little bit of blur into the background just to make it look a little bit more natural. And of course, once you do start to blur the background, sometimes you can kill a lot of the pixels. So you may then want to do exactly the same as what we did a few moments ago with the blue. Filter, noise, add noise. I'll go back to my favorite of 1% here. And there we have the image. And when we zoom in, we've got a good sharp image and the bird is nicely against the sky. I think the blue sky actually works better on this occasion, but we're all going to have a different preference, I guess. So as we look at the completed image, we can certainly say that we've created something which has better impact and composition to the original. If this video has been informative, or perhaps even a little entertaining in some way, please consider subscribing to my channel. It's never been easier really to create quality images as it is today. Now if there's a topic you'd like me to include, let me know and I'll see what I can do. I'll see you next time.